An HOA president thought she could intimidate a child. But when the video surfaced, she discovered the boy she shoved wasn't just any kid. He was the son of the FBI director. Geraldine Pruitt didn't hesitate, marching across the concrete path. Her sandals smacked the ground with each step, eyes locked on a group of kids by the neighborhood tennis courts. The Bethesda, Maryland sun was blazing, the air heavy and sticky. Yet Geraldine walked like nothing could touch her. Her voice, sharp as broken glass, cut through their chatter. "You don't belong here," she snapped, jabbing a finger at one boy. Noah Desmond, 11 years old, tall for his age, skinny, with a baseball cap turned backward as he sipped from his water bottle. The other kids froze. Everyone knew Geraldine, the HOA president, famous for barking about mailbox paint, driveway stains, or even basketballs left in front yards. But shouting at a child like a criminal? No one expected this. Noah blinked. "Ma'am, we're just sitting here. We're not bothering anyone." His voice was steady. Though confused, it didn't matter. Geraldine stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. "Don't talk back. You're trespassing. You don't live here." A little girl whispered, "He does. His house is on Chestnut Drive." Geraldine whipped around, eyes narrowing. "You hush." Then back to Noah. "Get up and leave before I call the cops." Noah started to rise, not wanting trouble. That's when Geraldine's hand shot out. She grabbed his arm too tightly and yanked him up, then shoved him back. His sneaker slipped on the asphalt, and he fell hard, scraping his elbow. Pain stung his eyes. Gasps erupted. "Hey, don't touch him!" one boy shouted. Another already had his phone out. Recording Noah pushed himself up, face red with pain and embarrassment. "Why'd you do that?" "I didn't do anything." His voice cracked with fear. Geraldine loomed over him, arms folded. "Don't talk back to me, boy. People like you need to learn respect." Those words hung in the humid air like a thunderclap. Kids knew exactly what she meant. And now, with the camera rolling, the world would know. Just then, a parent arrived. Melissa Grant, walking her dog, heard the yelling and rushed over. "What's going on?" she demanded, pulling her sunglasses down. She saw Noah on the ground, bleeding. "He's trespassing." Geraldine snapped. Melissa shook her head. "Noah lives here. His family moved in this spring. Everyone knows that." Geraldine's lips pressed thin. "That's not true. I check every resident personally, and his name isn't on the list." The kids muttered in disbelief. One whispered loudly, "She's lying." Noah's voice trembled. "My dad's name is Calvin Desmond. We just moved from D.C." Melissa froze. "Calvin Desmond, as in Director Desmond." She crouched, gently examining Noah's arm, then looked back at Geraldine, her voice turning icy. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Geraldine's face flickered. "I don't care who his daddy is. Rules are rules. Kids like him can't just do whatever they want." Melissa's tone sharpened. "Kids like him. That's what this is about." She stood, her hand on Noah's shoulder. "You assaulted an 11-year-old in broad daylight, Geraldine, and don't think people didn't see it." The boy with the phone finally spoke. "Don't worry. I got everything, every word." Geraldine spun on him, eyes blazing. "Delete that, or you'll regret it." But he didn't flinch. He held the phone higher. "My mom's a lawyer. I know my rights." For the first time, Geraldine faltered. Her breath uneven, her voice unsteady. "You kids don't know who you're dealing with." Melissa shook her head slowly. "No, Geraldine. You don't know who you're dealing with." A heavy silence fell. Then Geraldine turned, storming back toward her house. But every step, she knew more eyes were on her. And that recording, it wasn't going anywhere. By the time the sun set, the entire neighborhood would be talking, and soon the entire country. Asterisk kids. Like you need to learn respect. Patricia's jaw dropped. Oh my God, she really said that, and loud enough for every kid to hear. Melissa shook her head. And now the whole internet will hear it too. That video's already spreading. Just a few streets over, a group of teenagers huddled together, phones glowing as they replayed the clip. My cousin already reposted it on Twitter, one said. Comments are blowing up. Meanwhile, inside the Desmond home, Noah sat quietly at the kitchen island. His scraped arm was cleaned and wrapped, but his mother, Dr. Lillian Desmond, kept glancing at the window. The murmurs outside were growing louder. Noah, she said softly, brushing a hand over his hair. Tell me exactly what happened. He stared down at his lap. We were just sitting there. She came yelling. I told her we weren't doing anything. Then she grabbed me and pushed me. I didn't even talk back. Lillian exhaled slowly. I believe you. And now she's going to answer for it. She pulled her phone closer, already typing. Just then, the garage door rumbled. Calvin was home. He walked in, dressed simply button-down shirt, slacks looking like any other dad coming back from work. But his role was anything but ordinary. He saw his son's bandaged arm and his wife's tense face. What happened? His voice was calm, but steel lay beneath. Noah hesitated, then whispered, the lady from the HOA. She pushed me. Calvin's eyes narrowed. She what? Lillian stepped in. She grabbed him, shoved him to the ground. Melissa saw everything. And another boy filmed a tits already online. Calvin's jaw tightened, but he didn't raise his voice. He knelt beside Noah. You okay, champ? Noah nodded, though his eyes watered. I didn't do anything wrong. Calvin placed a hand on his shoulder. Huh, I know you didn't. And you'll never have to explain yourself to people like that. Not while I'm here. Outside, Geraldine wasn't hiding. She stood on her porch, arms crossed, daring anyone to speak. Patricia Nolan marched toward her. Geraldine, we all saw the video. What were you thinking? I was doing my job, Geraldine snapped. Kids don't get to run wild here. That boy was loitering where he didn't belong. Melissa joined in. Stop lying. He lives here. Everyone knows it. Not on my list, he doesn't. Geraldine shot back, tapping the clipboard she always seemed to have. Patricia's voice shook with outrage. You attacked a child. Do you understand how serious that is? Geraldine lifted her chin defiantly. It was discipline. Somebody had to teach him. The word discipline rippled through the growing crowd. Phones were out again, recording. Neighbors muttered in disbelief. Inside the Desmond home, Lillian's phone buzzed nonstop. One text froze her. Turn on the local news. They're already airing the clip. She grabbed the remote. The screen lit up with grainy footage. Geraldine grabbing Noah, shoving him down. The anchor's voice narrated, Tonight, outrage is erupting. In Bethesda, after a homeowners association president was caught on camera, physically confronting an 11-year-old boy near the community's tennis courts. Noah's face flushed. Everyone's gonna see me like that. Lillian kissed his forehead. No, sweetheart. Everyone's going to see her, not you. Calvin stood silently, eyes fixed on the footage. Years in the FBI had trained him not to react impulsively. But this wasn't just a case, it was his family. And Geraldine had no idea who she had just laid hands on. But before Calvin could act, flashing lights appeared. 2 Montgomery County squad cars rolled through the iron gates. Sirens cutting off as they stopped on Chestnut Drive. Half the neighborhood spilled onto porches. Drawn by the commotion, Geraldine stood tall at the edge of her lawn, chin high, as if she had summoned them herself. She was already rehearsing her story. Trespassing kids, disrespectful behavior, out of control, chaos. She'd spin it her way before anyone else could, but the crowd was buzzing louder now. Fingers pointed. Phones recorded Sergeant Adrian Keller step from the first cruiser seasoned, stern, a cop who'd seen it all. His partner, Officer Renee Cole, scanned the crowd. Noting the angry faces of parents and kids alike, Keller walked forward. "What's going on here?" Geraldine hurried up to him as if she owned the street. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. A group of children were trespassing on community property. One of them got mouthy and refused to leave. Things escalated." Keller cut in, his tone flat. "Escalated how?" Geraldine faltered. "He resisted when I told him to move. I had to guide him away." "These people are exaggerating. Asterisk it." "Wasn't guidance," Melissa Grant cut in. "That's a lie. You grabbed him, you shoved him. You made him fall. He's an 11-year-old boy. And it's all on video." Several kids lifted their phones at once, their screens glowing with proof. The officers exchanged a glance. "Where's the boy?" Officer Cole asked. Melissa pointed toward the Desmond house. "Inside with his parents. Scraped his arm pretty badly." Keller nodded. "Let's talk to them." But Geraldine stepped forward again. "HOA President. If there's a complaint to be made, it comes through me. You don't need to bother anyone else." That was the wrong thing to say. From the crowd, Patricia Nolan shouted, "You assaulted a child, Geraldine. You don't speak for us anymore." The neighbors murmured their agreement, phones raised high. Geraldine's face reddened, but she held her ground inside. Calvin had already seen the flashing lights through the blinds. He turned to Lillian. "Stay here with Noah. I'll handle this." When he opened the door, the officers were coming up the walk. Extended a hand. "Mr. Desmond." "Yes." Calvin's tone was controlled, though steel-edged every word. "We received a call about an altercation involving your son." Calvin's eyes flicked briefly toward Geraldine, standing with arms crossed. "Altercation is a generous word. My son was assaulted." Melissa stepped in. "I saw it." She grabbed him and pushed him down. Officer Cole added, "There are at least 3 videos. We'll need to see your son, sir." "The footage?" "Of course," Calvin said, opening the door wider. "Come in." The officers followed him inside. Boxes still sat half unpacked in the foyer. In the kitchen, Noah waited at the island, his bandaged arm resting on the counter. His eyes widened when the uniforms entered. Keller crouched beside. "Hey, buddy, can you tell me what happened?" Noah swallowed. "She yelled at me, said I didn't live here. I told her I did. Then she grabbed my arm and shoved me." "Did you do anything to her? Hit her back? Curse at her?" Keller asked. Noah shook his head quickly. "No, sir." Cole glanced at Lillian. "Can we see the injury?" She gently unwrapped the gauze, showing the raw scrape along his elbow. Cole noted it down. Outside, Geraldine paced on her lawn, muttering, just loud enough for neighbors to hear. "They're just making this about race. Nothing but troublemakers. He's playing the victim." Her words carried. Gasps, shouts, and anger rippled through the crowd. "You're done, Geraldine." One man shouted. Another neighbor called out, "We've all seen how you treat people. You just picked the wrong family." Inside, Melissa played the video for the officers. Geraldine's voice was unmistakable. "Kids like you need to learn respect." Then the shove. Then Noah hitting the pavement. Keller's jaw tightened. He straightened and looked. "At Calvin, sir, we'll be filing a report. Based on the evidence, this qualifies as assault on a minor. We'll need to speak with Mrs. Pruitt." Calvin's face stayed calm, but his eyes burned. "I expect her to be charged." "Yes, sir," Keller said. "We'll handle it." When The officers returned outside. The crowd leaned in. Geraldine stepped forward, expecting sympathy. Instead, Keller's voice was firm. "Mrs. Pruitt, you're being detained for questioning regarding the assault of a child. We have video evidence and multiple witnesses." Gasps rippled through the street. Geraldine's face went pale. "What? No. I'm the victim here. They're lying, all of them." Officer Cole took her firmly by the arm. "Ma'am, please. Step aside. You'll have a chance to speak." "You can't do this to me," Geraldine shrieked. "I run this neighborhood." Patricia Nolan shouted back. "Not anymore. You don't." Phones rose higher, recording everything Geraldine's protests. The officers guiding her toward the squad car. The neighbors watching with folded arms dot from the Desmond doorway. Calvin stood silently, his hand resting protectively on Noah's shoulder. He didn't need to say a word. Everyone could see who truly held the authority now, but Geraldine didn't realize her arrest was just the beginning, because the video wasn't staying in Bethesda. By evening, the quiet suburb was buzzing like never before. Geraldine's arrest dominated every porch conversation and every phone call. The clip was already looping on local news broadcasts. Anchors spoke the words neighbors were still whispering. An HOA president caught on camera shoving an 11-year-old boy. Inside, Calvin and Lillian sat at the dining table, their phones lighting up with notifications. Messages poured in, reporters asking for statements, colleagues offering support, strangers expressing outrage. Noah sat between them, picking at his sandwich. His voice was small. "Dad, is she going to jail?" Calvin set his phone down. She be questioned. And yes, she could face charges. "What matters is that you're safe. That's my only priority." Lillian leaned forward, her voice low. "Calvin, people are going to find out who you are. They don't already." He sighed, leaning back. "It was bound to happen. I wanted this move to give Noah a normal childhood. I thought this neighborhood would be far enough from the noise in D.C." Noah frowned. "Why does it matter who you are, Dad?" Before Calvin could answer, his phone buzzed. It's a secure line. He stepped into the study and shut the door. The voice on the other end was Deputy Director Alan Roebuck. "Calvin, I just saw the footage. It's already at the top of every outlet's feed. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, they're all running it. People are connecting the dots. They know it's your kid." Calvin's shoulders tightened. So much for privacy. This was never supposed to happen. "I know," Roebuck said. "But this isn't just another viral video. It's a fact that the FBI director's son was attacked. That changes everything. You need to brace for national attention." Calvin closed his eyes. "Noah doesn't deserve this. He just wanted to ride his bike with friends." "I get it," Roebuck said quietly. "But the Bureau's already getting calls. They'll expect you to make a statement. If you don't, it'll look like we're dodging." Calvin paused, then said flatly, "Understood. I'll handle it." He hung up, staring at the family photo on his desk himself, Lillian and Noah, smiling in front of the Lincoln Memorial. It was supposed to represent balance, but balance was slipping. When he returned to the dining room, Lillian studied his face. "Well, it won't just be a neighborhood issue anymore," Calvin said. "We'll be in headlines until this is resolved." Noah's eyes widened, like everybody in the country. Calvin nodded. "Yes, everybody." Meanwhile, outside, clusters of neighbors whispered. Melissa Grant leaned in to her group. "Did you know Noah's father is the FBI director?" The circle fell silent. Patricia gasped. "You're kidding?" Melissa shook her head. "I heard it straight from Lillian." Geraldine's finished. "This isn't just a neighborhood fight anymore. This is national news." Another neighbor muttered, "Makes sense why they kept to themselves. I thought he worked in government." Realize it was that high up. Melissa folded her arms. Well, Geraldine picked the wrong kid to manhandle. The internet isn't going to let this go. At that very moment, a news van rolled up to the gates. Its antenna shot skyward. Reporters scrambled out, cameras ready. Inside, Lillian peered out the window. They're already here. Calvin placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll get through this. But from here on out, nothing stays small. Not for us. Noah pressed, his forehead to the glass. Everyone's gonna know me now. Lillian hugged him close. They'll know what she did. And they'll know you did nothing wrong. But outside, Geraldine's few remaining allies whispered their own version. She was just disciplining him. This is being blown out of proportion. It didn't matter. The truth was out. Geraldine hadn't just shoved a boy. She had shoved the son of the most powerful law enforcement official in the country, and the storm was only getting started by nightfall. Social media turned the story from a neighborhood scandal to a national firestorm. The clips spread everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Outrage was unanimous. On Twitter, a post from a local high schooler had already passed 200,000 shares. HOA President assaults 11-year-old. Boy at tennis court says kids like you. This is Bethesda, MD. Disgusting. Every replay hit harder than the last, and on TikTok, creators began stitching the clip. Asterisk online, reactions exploded. Some broke the video down frame by frame. Others just sat in stunned silence, shaking their heads. A veteran teacher wrote, "I've spent 20 years with kids, and if any adult laid hands on a child in my school like this, they'd be fired instantly. Why does she think she's above accountability?" Cable news jumped in too. CNN's banner read, "HOA President caught on camera attacking child," while Fox framed it as FBI Director's son at center of neighborhood incident. Different words, same viral clip. Inside the Desmond home, Noah sat curled on the couch, eyes locked on the screen as he watched himself fall again and again. "Why do they keep showing it?" he whispered. Lillian muted the TV and sat beside him. Gus. The truth matters. People need to see what she did. Noah frowned. But all they'll remember is me falling. Calvin, leaning in the doorway, shook his head. No, they'll remember what she did was wrong. That's what matters. Across town, Geraldine paced her living room like a trapped animal. Released? Pending charges, she seethed at the sight of news vans circling her cul-de-sac. Her phone buzzed constantly for more allies from the HOA board messaging. "We can't defend this." "It's bad, Geraldine. Really bad." Finally, she dialed Richard Colson, her closest supporter on the board. "Richard, get on social media. Tell them that boy was trespassing, that he was disrespectful. Remind them who I am in this neighborhood." A long pause. Then Richard sighed. "Geraldine. Everyone saw the video. There's nothing to defend. You went too far." Her voice rose sharp. "Don't you dare turn on me. I made this community what it is." "Maybe it needs to fall apart," Richard said quietly before hanging up. The betrayal stung, but Geraldine's pride kept her standing. She opened her laptop, drafting a statement. "Yesterday's incident has been misrepresented. I acted only to protect order in the community. I never meant harm. Children must learn respect." Satisfied, she posted it to the HOA's Facebook page. Minutes later, the backlash hit. Comments flooded in. "You assaulted a child. We know what you meant by kids like you. Stop gaslighting us. Step down, Geraldine." Screenshots spread across Twitter. TikTok creators spliced her words with the raw footage, mocking every excuse. What Geraldine saw as a defense only fueled her downfall. Meanwhile, at the Desmond home, Lillian scrolled through the chaos. She really thought this would work, she muttered. Calvin kept his gaze steady. People like her always think authority makes them untouchable. But evidence doesn't lie. Noah, spoon hovering over his cereal, asked quietly, "What's she saying now?" Lillian glanced at her phone, then read, "She says she was protecting the community, that you were being disrespectful." Noah's face tightened in frustration. "That's not true. I didn't even yell at her." Calvin leaned closer, his voice calm but firm. "Son, you don't need to defend yourself. The truth is plain. Let her dig her own grave." And Geraldine was doing just that. By late morning, Montgomery County prosecutors announced a formal investigation. Outside the courthouse, State's Attorney Carla Mendoza faced a wall of cameras. "We have received multiple video recordings, eyewitness accounts, and official statements regarding the incident with Mrs. Geraldine Pruitt. What we've seen so far raises serious concerns about assault on a minor. No child should ever be subjected to that kind of treatment, regardless of circumstance." Back in the neighborhood, parents gathered outside the clubhouse. Melissa Grant stepped forward. Reporters pressing in. "She doesn't speak for this community anymore. She abused her power and crossed a line no one can defend." Patricia Nolan added, "We've all seen her harassment before, nitpicking rules, singling families out. Now she's caught, and the world is watching. Enough is enough." The crowd erupted in applause. For once, the neighbors stood united. Meanwhile, Geraldine watched the press conference alone in her darkened living room, hands shaking with rage. She dialed Richard Colson again, her voice cracking. "Richard, you've got to help me. These people are turning on me like wolves." His voice was weary. "Geraldine, I told you, I can't defend this. The video doesn't lie." Her voice rose sharp. "So you'll just abandon me? After everything you did this," he said flatly. "Now you have to face it." He hung up. The silence shattered as Geraldine hurled her coffee mug against the wall. Notifications kept buzzing, resignation demands, furious emails, reporters knocking at her door. She locked it, drew the curtains, and retreated deeper into her home like it was a bunker. Across town, Calvin received a call from Washington. "Director Desmond, the White House is monitoring this situation. You may be asked to make a statement sooner rather than later." His reply was steady. "Understood. But my family comes first." Lillian overheard and squeezed his hand. "That's why people respect you. You know where your duty really begins." Calvin gave a faint smile, though the weight pressed heavier by the hour. He had managed crises on the national stage before, but never one this close to home. Meanwhile, Geraldine clung to the illusion she could spin her way out of the scandal. But the truth was spreading faster than her excuses, and the real turning point hadn't even arrived. The following afternoon, Rockville Courthouse buzzed with reporters. Geraldine Pruitt's name was national headline material now. Locals who once rolled their eyes at HOA drama now lined the barricades, watching history unfold in their own backyard. Inside, Carla Mendoza moved quickly. She signed off on 3 formal charges: assault on a minor, child endangerment, and harassment. Each word landed like a hammer. When Geraldine entered the courthouse with her attorney, Paul Strickland, the blinding flash of cameras struck her like gunfire. Reporters shouted over one another, "Mrs. Pruitt, do you have anything to say to the boy's family? Are you resigning as HOA President? Do you regret your actions?" Geraldine lifted her chin, trying to project confidence, but panic flickered in her eyes. In a nearby side office, Calvin sat with Lillian and Noah, waiting for their turn to give their statements. Noah sat nervously, legs swinging beneath his chair. His elbow, still wrapped in fresh gauze, throbbed faintly from the cut that hadn't fully healed. "Do I have to talk?" he asked softly. Calvin leaned closer, meeting his son's eyes. Only if you're ready. No one can force you. But your words matter, Noah. People will listen. Lillian gently rubbed her son's back. Just tell the truth, sweetheart. That's all you need to do. Noah swallowed hard and nodded. Moments later, they were called into the room. A stenographer sat ready, prosecutors waiting with their notes. Carla Mendoza leaned forward, her tone warm and steady. Noah, I know this is difficult, but can you tell us what happened that day? The boy's voice wavered, but he spoke. She came over yelling, said I didn't belong. I told her I lived there, but she didn't listen. She grabbed me hard and pushed me. I fell and cut my arm. Carla's eyes narrowed slightly. And when she pushed you, did you feel like you were in danger? Yes, Noah whispered. I didn't know what she would do next. Calvin's jaw tightened, but he let his son's words speak for themselves. Outside, Carla faced the press once more. Cameras crowded around as she declared, "We are moving forward with charges against Mrs. Geraldine Pruitt. No one, regardless of their position in a community, has the right to lay hands on a child. This is about accountability." The statement spread like wildfire, dominating national headlines. Commentators debated fiercely. Some called it a blatant abuse of power. Others questioned how such behavior had been allowed to go unchecked for so long. Back in her home, Geraldine Pruitt raged. Crumpled drafts of unsent statements littered the floor while her phone buzzed nonstop with angry messages. Her attorney sat across from her, exhausted. Geraldine, the evidence is overwhelming. Multiple videos, multiple witnesses. And your own words caught on tape. Our only hope is to negotiate a plea. She slammed her fist against the table. No, I won't admit guilt. I was doing my duty as HOA president. That boy was disrespectful. Stop, her attorney snapped. Patience. Gone. Every time you talk like this, you make it worse. The jury won't care about your title. They'll care about that video. Her face hardened. Then I'll fight. I won't let them ruin me. But while Geraldine clung to arrogance, the Desmond family struggled to find normalcy for Noah. At school, whispers followed him everywhere, some sympathetic, some curious. A few even admiring. One afternoon, a classmate slid beside him in the cafeteria. "Hey, I saw the news. You're a brave man. My parents said she's always been nasty, but now she's caught." Noah forced a small smile, though deep down he wished life could return to before . At dinner, Lillian finally asked a question. On everyone's mind, Calvin, what happens next? There'll be hearings, maybe a trial, and the HOA. They'll have to answer for letting someone like her rule unchecked. Does this mean she can't be in charge anymore? Noah asked. Calvin gave a faint smile. That's exactly what it means. But the comfort was short-lived. Geraldine wasn't backing down. Her defiance threatened to drag the entire neighborhood deeper into conflict. The cracks in her power, however, were widening fast. The HOA clubhouse overflowed that nitros of folding chairs jammed into the hall, people spilling into the corridor, the air buzzing with restless conversation. "Order, we'll have order," barked Richard Colson, the weary board member forced to chair the emergency meeting. "We are here." He began to discuss the recent incident involving our HOA president, Mrs. Geraldine Pruitt. Her name alone set off a wave of angry murmurs. In the front row, Melissa Grant and Patricia Nolan sat with arms crossed, while parents who had never once attended a meeting now filled the room with fury in their eyes. At the head table, Geraldine sat stiff and smug, a smirk daring anyone to challenge her. Her lawyer had advised her to stay away, but her pride wouldn't let her. Richard cleared his throat. "Given the seriousness of the charges filed, we must decide whether she can continue as HOA president." The room erupted. She assaulted a child. One parent shouted, "She's embarrassed this whole neighborhood." Yelled another, Geraldine shot to her feet. This is a witch hunt. I acted in the best interest of this community, as I always have. That boy was where he shouldn't have been. Discipline was necessary. Without me, this place would fall apart. Her words were met with boos and outrage. Patricia Nolan stood, her voice cutting through the noise. Safe. Orderly. "Geraldine, you've harassed families for years. You fined people over the color of their flowers, you threatened lawsuits over mailboxes, and now you laid hands on a child. This isn't about protecting the community. It's about your obsession with control." Applause thundered across the hall. Even Richard, desperate to appear neutral, looked uneasy. Melissa Grant rose next. "Let's be clear. What you did wasn't discipline, it was violence. And you targeted Noah because you didn't think his family belonged here. Well, they do, and the rest of us are done." The crowd roared in agreement. Geraldine's smirk faltered for the first time.